Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new episode of TAETRO Talks. I'm so excited to be here tonight. It's a bit of a later episode to accommodate our guests, but I'm stoked because it's supposed to be like a late night talk show, I guess. But welcome. If you don't know, we do this show every Thursday at different times depending on the guest. But we talk to somebody who has, who works in the creative world or in the music industry somehow, artists, every Thursday on my channel and on 343 TV. We do the stream in partnership with 343 Labs, which is an electronic music school that's virtual. So wherever you are in the world, you can learn with amazing instructors, but it's also in New York and in Berlin. Classes starting all the time. If that piques your interest and you want to take a cool class with some like really amazing instructors in Ableton, Logic, mixing and mastering, any music production kind of topic you can think of, open house is coming up later this week, but I will give you more details on that later. For now, I just want to say hello to some folks in the chat before we really get started here. What is going on, Audio Duck? Nice to see you. Raul, my mom is in the chat. Hello. Joey Fernandez. What is going on? Oh, Joey Fernandez says Ricky the OG, so he's ready for our guest. We see that. Diamonds Forever. What's going on? Akshat. Hello. Keep in mind, I'm watching the chat so that if you are going to have a question for our guest or a question that comes up during the conversation, you can go ahead and type it in, and I will try my best to relay the question. But for now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest, Ricky Tinez. Welcome to the stream.
Yo, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here. I'm stoked that we could do this. I'm hoping that folks on there will let us know how the levels are. And if I freeze, we'll just roll with it. But welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. You're the first guest that I've had that looks a little bit sharper than me with that quality.
I know. I don't know. I guess this is just what I do.
The lava lamp is what makes it. And the flex with the MPC, I would say. Killing it. Ricky, I'm a big fan of your channel. I can't call you Ricky. I have to call you Enrique. I just have to. So, folks, you all probably know him as Ricky Tinez. So you can go subscribe to his channel. If you're not yet, you probably already are. Really dope YouTube channel. So much growth lately with your videos, like working with hardware, a ton of hardware synth stuff, some MPC stuff. We met probably through Novation, because you also work for Novation, which is another cool aspect that I'm hoping to get into today, because we can talk all about like jobs in the industry, and you have this really unique position where you're like a content creator with like this really amazing audience and this really amazing like back catalog of videos that people can consume, and then you're also working for one of the biggest companies. They make a lot of the controllers that I love and that people see on this channel, and a lot of other cool synth and hardware stuff. So I want to get into all that. But thank you for being on today again. I guess a cool place to start this conversation, where I usually like to start the conversation with folks on the show, is can you tell me about how you define yourself as an artist? Because I think it gets really interesting with someone like you who creates videos, but you also have releases, you put out music fairly regularly, you love gear, clearly, you love jamming, and you're playing a fair amount of live stuff I saw like right before like COVID hit. But yeah, just tell us, how do you define yourself as an artist?
Man, what a tall glass
Deep question.
To drink. Yeah. How I define myself as an artist, I mean, I don't know, I'm just having fun. It's just all exploratory, and I just like mangling sounds and then just throw a kick on it, and I'm like, yo, this is kind of cool. I wish I had a club DJ this and just mess around. It's just like, honestly, just the world of exploring and seeing these creative blocks and what that outcome can create, I guess, would probably it. Just exploring and having fun.
I think that's so cool, but it almost, you do so much. It's just so much like beyond exploring. I guess, like, how did you get your start like tinkering with electronic music? Like, did you start in more traditional stuff like guitar lessons, piano lessons as a kid? Like, where did the love of music and that kind of thing start?
Yeah, so I very young, I did like violin, trombone. I played in a marching band. I was either playing the huge drum on the back. Yeah, or I
Yeah.
pulled the wagon that huge drum was on. Like it was like a little
Nice.
tag team duo. But from there, I mean, I explored in music, and my cousins were always into like dance and house music. Like I still totally remember being at one of my cousins' weddings, and they were doing like this dope like house dance routine. Was like something that they like choreographed during the
Huh.
wedding, and had like an all vinyl DJ playing a bunch of old school, Frankie Knuckles and Kerry Chandler, and just like a bunch of good Chicago house, New York soulful house stuff. I was like, this is so cool, but I didn't realize how much that would impact me later down the line. And then my brother, I remember always taking his like Basement Jacks CDs
Mm-hmm.
and just like listening to those on repeat. And I loved the rhythms and the style. But now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, these productions are so insanely overproduced. Like there's so much going on. Like you can
Right.
listen to it over and over and you constantly hear new things. A lot of similar to like I'm not sure if you're familiar with the producer Can Blaster.
I'm not.
uh, yeah, they have Club Cheval. It's like a French little group, him, Sam, and some other people. But they Can Blaster specifically has like these really crazy, overproduced songs, and they're really cool. But I always liked the more minimal approach to things, and that's kind of where the house music stuff came into play. And I mean, short stint, I was also in a band
Mm-hmm.
playing guitar. Then I did bass, but we had a keyboardist who had a Nord. Um, I can't remember what Nord synth it was, but I remember always like messing around with it
Right.
and just being like, "Oh, this is so cool!" And then like my cousin was doing DJing stuff and trying to do remixes with virtual DJ. It was just like this weird sprawl of just like every type of way to make music. I was kind of exposed to it, and I just kind of was like, "Oh, that's fun. Oh, this is cool. Oh, I like this,"
That's
and
cool.
like, yeah, kind of seeing it all wrap back around. I can totally see exactly why I have the things I have now and why they resonate with me, I guess. But I've never really looked too far into it. But yeah, I guess that is a deep question.
Yeah. I wonder, it makes me wonder what was the first, like, beyond, you played guitar in the band and stuff,
Yeah.
but like in terms of electronic music, like what was the first piece of gear that you bought for yourself where you were like, all right, I'm doing this, or I'm gonna try doing something?
Dude, you know what's so funny? It was an M Audio Axiom 25 MIDI keyboard.
Very
And
cool.
I remember like being super young and begging my mom to buy it for me. And we went to the Guitar Center over on Stevens Creek up in the Bay Area. I bought it, and like coming home with it, I was just like, oh my God, this is the most expensive thing I have ever owned. And it was like
That's
60
funny.
bucks or something like that. But I was just like I would dust it. I would put like my shirts on it to keep it all clean because that
Wow.
was like my life. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is everything I've needed. And I think I had like a Ableton, like a very basic version of it at the time. And even before that, I was messing around a lot with virtual DJ and trying to do like live remixes in there. But it wasn't until I got that MIDI keyboard and Ableton that I was like, holy crap, like this is so endless. And then I started getting into samplers and synths and stuff like that shortly
Yeah.
after.
You had, it was the gateway drug, the MIDI controller.
Yeah, it totally was. And I think that's the beauty of a lot of the software stuff is like it shows you what you really like and what you use a lot. Like I remember using the Korg Legacy collection forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I use the M1 on every single track. So I just was like, I should just go buy an M1.
Yeah,
Why not? It's
let's
super
talk
cheap.
about that. Like you
Yeah.
talk about like getting your start in the software world, which obviously I think most of us do nowadays, especially. It's just so much more accessible. So was that the gateway into hardware too, where you just started using a lot of these like modeled or like plug-in versions of these instruments, and then you were like, oh, let me get the real one.
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, it kind of started with the software stuff and house, and I would say probably for like the first, honestly, maybe like 5 years, 4 to 5 years, I didn't make anything I was actually proud of. I would put music out and I would DJ, and I had different names that I would go under. I had mixtapes, but I was never really like confident in myself. I was kind of
Mm.
like putting stuff out because I thought that's what I had to do. And I was like, cool, the next step is to do all this stuff. So throughout that whole time, I was still trying to figure out like my sound, I guess, if you will. And it's such a, and I still am to this day, but I definitely know what I enjoy making and what I do. And along that process, it was totally like, cool. I like virtual DJ because I could take these little loops and just repeat those over a bigger loop and
Right.
create these weird like little, like edits.
Combinations. And yeah.
Yeah, these bootleg remixes of Britney Spears or Pharrell and NERD, like anything. The Neptunes, I would remix a lot of that. I would remix like Ludacris. I
Wow.
would take like random rap songs and put them on top of house tracks and be like, this is so cool. But at the same time, I was like 12. So,
For sure.
you know?
It's cool for being 12. I
Yeah,
want to harp on what you said before about like the 4 to 5 years of making music, but not really being 100% proud of it and like really finding your sound. In that period of time, were you self-aware of that? Or do you think it was more like kind of you thought what you were making was awesome at the time, and now reflecting back on it, you were like, yeah, I don't really know what I was doing back then.
I mean, I guess I was proud of being able to get close to songs that I enjoy listening to,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't be able to put my songs in like a playlist or on a CD mixtape and just have it shuffle through and then my song come on and me not immediately notice it. You know,
Hmm.
I was I was like, wow, I can't believe I made this song, but at the same time I'm like, that's cool, but it's not really something that I want to make. Like, it's not something that I'm like, oh crap. Basically, what it came down to was eventually I made a track maybe like 5 years ago. I think I recently put it up for release on my Bandcamp. I'm not sure if I have or not, but it's called Crime on the Inside. And when I made this track, I was like, oh, dude, I would buy this on vinyl if I heard this in the shop.
Interesting.
And yeah, and at that moment, I was just like, I want to make music like this. However, I made this, I need to continue this path because this is the sound I've been looking for. Like it was the closest I was able to get. And even listening to it now, I was like, oh yeah, there's so much I would change. But prior to that, everything that I made, it was cool and I was down and it was awesome. I would show friends, I would play little shows, playing my music and stuff, but I wasn't like it wasn't what really made me start grooving and dancing. Like it was a fact of I don't even know how to
Is
explain
it
it. It
like
was like
a combination of super high standards for yourself, or just having a very clear vision of what you want to do and not quite being able to achieve it yet?
I think it's a yeah, I think it's pretty much that. Like I don't know, it's like being able to how can I put this? Like being able to put together a car and you're
Hmm.
like, yeah, this is awesome. I built a car. It works, it runs and everything like that, but I would really like to make a boat, like
Yeah.
I'm so close. It's a mode of transportation. It's big. I can take friends in it. It's basically everything that you would use to get from point A to point B, but it's not the way that I would want to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, and here's a good a question that I think a lot of people I've had the conversation with some other people on the show about is like how were you learning at the time? Because YouTube and tutorials and stuff, it is what it is now is not what it was at all.
Yeah.
So, what were you doing to like take steps to learn and improve and kind of find the sound you want? Especially the kind of stuff that you were talking about, like some of that house music, like some of that stuff is straight up like you probably can't find tutorials for some of it now.
Yeah.
The deep cut stuff. But like, how were you learning? Were you just doing things by ear, trying things, trial and error?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, like, it's just like, in a sense, trying to mimic what the masters are doing,
Hmm.
and uh, yeah, it's just like trying to figure out how it is that they're doing these things and why. I think is the question that I completely overlooked was like, what's the actual intention of this song? Because like you listen to Jack and House, that's meant to make you almost want to bang your head against the wall because you're supposed to kind of lose yourself in these rhythms that are so repetitive. Like
Right.
that's the point, you know? So listening to stuff like that, listening to a lot of these old there's this really good record called Love Dancin', It's on Strictly Rhythm, like one of the rarer good Strictly Rhythm tracks. And I love that track. I think it came out in like 92 or 94 or something. And even to this day, I'm like, how the hell did they make this with whatever they had available at the
Yeah.
time? You know, it was just like, I don't get it. And even listening to like a lot of Carrie tracks, like Carrie Chandler, his stuff is so good, so loopy, and there's just trying to find. I think it's the intention and like the groove and the soul of the track is so deep within it that it doesn't matter what the loop is, what the loop says, how it's chopped up, how it's pitched, how the drums are laid out, how clean the mix is, or anything like that. It's just kind of creating a vibe within the track. And that's what I was missing from my music. And I think that's because I was constantly chasing something that wasn't genuine to me.
Right.
You know, I was like, I want to do this and I want to be like him and I want to be like her and I want to do that. But why? I couldn't answer that question.
For
So
sure.
that definitely showed through my music, I would say.
It's super humbling to think about like some of those older records and like being like, man, how did they make that then? I can't even figure out how to make it now. And I'm carrying around a phone that has like all these synths and DAWs like in my
Yeah.
pocket, you know, like
Yeah.
thinking about it that way. I wonder when you talked about that track that when you finished and released it, you were finally like, yeah, like this is me. Like I could put this up against some of the tracks that I love and bump to it just as hard. What can you define that like breakthrough moment? Like what were you seeing in your work that you hadn't seen before? How did you get there? Like, or did you just happen to arrive at it and you were like, hey, this is actually, I like this.
Right. Yeah, I think with that Crime on the Inside track that I did, that I was finally like, oh man, this is cool. I think it was literally just a lack of care. I just like wanted to aimlessly make a song with no real direction. Because up to that point, I'd be like, all right, I want to make a song. It'd be like me and my homies in the room or something. We'd be like, all right, let's go and listen to tracks that we like and try to make those tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like, I was on my own. I think I just had my laptop at the time too, so I was doing like really weird sampling things because I was able to inside of Ableton Live
Yeah.
and just chopping it up. And I was just like, this sounds pretty cool. And then I was like, you know what, let me just dirty it up and get it really grungy. So I ran it through this old Pioneer cassette deck and just like turned the gain up. And I think it was just over time finding what music actually resonated with me, which was a lot of Detroit, a lot of Atlanta, and a lot of New York style house music. It was very punk rock to me, of just like, we have this and we're gonna make that and we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Somehow, we don't know how, but it's gonna work. And along those lines, you come up with the craziest sounds and stuff that like you wouldn't even know how to make, or you don't even know how to explain how it's sounding that way.
Right.
And a lot of that really influenced me, which is like this kind of like just like punk rock. Like, who cares? Like, we're just gonna make house music. We're gonna break all the rules and just make our house music. And that's kind of what it came down to. And I almost felt like I hit a point of that with the Crime on the Inside track, where I was just like, damn, this is exactly what I want. It's dirty, it's grungy, there's this dope loop, there's all these little things that happen, but the loop itself is still the same. And I just was just, yeah, I don't even know if by the time it was done, I realized how much I liked it, because you always got to sleep on
Yeah.
it, and then
You
next
come
day
out
and it's
at the other
a
end of the
coin
tunnel
toss.
and you look back and you're
Yeah,
like, oh, yeah. Yeah.
like that actually isn't that bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like the going to sleep and then checking the track the next morning is the ultimate test for sure.
Oh man, it's yeah, nerve wracking.
Did you find that like you talked about the very punk rock nature of it, like we're just gonna make this with what we've got, however we can. Did you find that you were actually learning some real serious stuff about like sampling and synth, but like in a coming from it from the back end kind of way? Like now that you kind of work so deeply in the industry, I wonder if like now you realize like, oh yeah, I learned all these things. I didn't know it was called that or this or that, like coming from that background.
Yeah, I guess a bit for sure. I mean, the reason I moved to LA from the Bay was to go to SAE, the
Hmm.
the music school. And I kind of was like, I know how to get the sounds. At this point, I was like, I know how to get the sounds I like, but I don't exactly know all the terminology and what I'm doing. So I want to go to school to kind of fill in the blanks, and figure out what the hell this thing is called, or what is that called, or
Yeah.
what exactly is compression doing. Like I know what I like. I know I turn this thing called threshold down and turn this thing called gain up and like slam the attack. But what is it actually doing, you
For
know?
sure. And did you
So
find that that traditional education like worked really well for you, like getting the answers to those questions?
no, no, I didn't at all. Like
Interesting.
being fully candid, yeah, it was awesome. I liked it. But at least the school that I went to was definitely more about like making connections as opposed to actually learning what
Yeah.
you're doing. But it was also probably the course I was taking, which was electronic music production. So it's pretty vague to begin with. Like one day would be on Ableton, one day would be on Logic. So I was able to take a lot of bits and information, but I with it I also came all these rules that took me years to break and like
Right.
not judge myself when it came to making music. And
And
I was like we're all our own worst enemy, and the school definitely made that amplified for me.
and like what year would that have been? Cuz
Uh, I went to SAE in 2010.
right. So like
A
right around that
decade.
time. Like
Jeez.
the stuff was still so like if you just think about Ableton around 2010, like people were it was really just starting to hit mainstream kind of like around that, a little bit
Yeah.
before that time and then like really coming into its own. Like that must have been like Live
Yeah.
8 or by that
No, I
time
think it
or
was on
Live.
7. I
Oh yeah, yeah. But so
think it was 7.
the point being, like, you go to a school where you're supposed to like learn all this stuff that's just emerging, and like they don't have the people to teach it, so they switch. They say, okay, we got this one dude who can teach Ableton, and you're gonna go to this lady's course, and she teaches on Pro
Yeah.
Tools. It's like it's so crazy. I went to a more traditional music school. Like a university, like for music, not just electronic stuff, and it
Yeah.
was like the same thing. Like the little amount of electronic stuff you got, it was just all over the place. But I don't know. I have a little faith now with Berkeley's whole thing and recognizing the controller and DAW kind of situation. I
Yeah,
have
there's definitely
hope.
been a lot of changes in the music industry in terms of accepting or like just, yeah, I guess acknowledging how you make music, you know? Because at the same time, it's like you could be making country music, but you're still running through a DAW. They still use drum machines and like they still use synthesizers. There's so much of it that's still electronic music at the end of the day. Like,
And I do
you know,
wonder
that
if, like, for those traditional programs, if it's just too little, too late, though, because uh, like 4-year programs, like, do they even make sense anymore? Traditional universities going into a ton of debt to kind of to learn this stuff that is all out there on the internet, or you can find a more specialized program to go to.
yeah. Yeah, or people like you teaching out a bunch of stuff, YouTube University, basically.
And like you, yeah, and I especially think because I was surprised to hear your reaction to your experience with SAE because I have a very similar negative relationship with my college that I went to, and it's just like it just makes you wonder, like, great, there's recognition from that world now, but now it almost doesn't matter anymore. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but that could
digress.
just be to us, you
That
know.
could, yeah, it could just be us, but I worry about the kids who are going out and taking massive loans to, do these kind of things.
Oh
That's
man,
all.
I literally just yesterday was like, I am so glad I didn't go to college.
Right.
Because talking to a lot of friends with like huge debt, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah, it's a nightmare. And then you look back on it, you're like, was it worth it? Oh, well, I don't want to bash college the whole
school
stream.
kids just
Um,
get good grades.
yeah, get good grades. I wonder. So you do the class at SAE, and how do you end up working in the industry? Like, what's the trajectory for you? Are you very deliberate about saying, look, I want to get a job working for a company in music, or were you thinking about going the artist route? I want to just make records and release them. Like, what was the thinking when you started thinking about career?
Honestly, it's now like with that question being posed, like looking back, a lot of what I'm doing now, I didn't even realize was an option. Like even going to music school. So straight out of high school, I tried college for a couple months, and I remember my mom coming into my room and I'm like, making a banger as I did
Of
every
course.
day. And she's like, Rick, you suck at college, all you do is music. Why don't you go to school for music? And I'm like, like you could do that, because
Wow.
like this entire time I was skipping lunch, and fourth period in high school to come home and make music. So I saw music as a negative thing, especially back then. It was like, hey, I want to be a comedian. They're like, ha ha, funny, go to school, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with like music. It was like, I want to be an artist. I mean, even then, I still didn't think it was a thing, but I was like, cool, this serves two purposes. I can go to school, make my parents happy, and I can make myself happy and learn about music. I didn't think it was an issue or
Right.
a possibility. So then I come to LA. I finished school. It was a really short course, like 6 months or something like that. And then I got a job doing audiovisual stuff. And that I would definitely say that that helped that I had an audio background, even though ultimately I ended up in the video realm
Mm.
of the audio video world. But I was playing a bunch of shows, and I had this old duo I was a part of called Velcro, me and my buddy Kevin, but way back in the day. And we're like, you know what? Let's just buy tickets to New York, tell New York promoters we're there to play shows, even though we had no shows booked,
Huh.
and just be like, hey, we're in town. Do you want to also book us while we're out here? So we ended up making like, getting a bunch of shows booked, paid for our
What a
flights, paid
hustle.
for our stay. Yeah, I was just like, F it. What do I got to lose, you know?
Yeah.
And what the greatest part about that was then coming back to LA. LA promoters are like, wait, they're playing in New York? Like, we got to book them
That's
here, you
so
know?
funny.
And I was just like, oh my God. So you're telling me they got to book me first before you can book me, my neighbor, you know? So it's kind of trippy. But basically, that happened, went to New York. At one of the shows, the Novation artist relations manager was there, and we just kind of kept in contact, talked, and he was like, "Yeah, I'd like to send you some gear, check it out." And maybe over the course of like 2 years, eventually I was just like, "Hey, I love being involved, but I also love to get a paycheck rather than
For sure.
gear." You know? So ultimately, just kind of harping on that every couple months, and eventually someone left. They hired me just to kind of get my foot in the door and would move me around from there. And same with that. Like when I got the call um, to be a part of Novation, I still didn't. I was really nervous and really
Mm.
scared because I was like, dude, I don't know if I could do this. Like I don't know much about Novation stuff. I don't know. I know how to make music, but I
Yeah.
wasn't confident in myself of actually knowing anything because I still feel like I don't know anything when it comes to making music because there's a million
I
ways
feel
to
that.
do it.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, why am I hitting record right now? Like
Yeah.
I have nothing to offer. Like this is so dumb, you know?
Yeah.
So even then I was so nervous to take this job. And I didn't even realize the stuff that I use every day is ran by a company. So like I didn't even think that that was a possible job,
Yeah.
you know? And then the same thing translates to like YouTube. If you really want to make that a job too, it's like, oh, right. I guess I could do what I love
Yeah.
and just talk about it and just
Let's
make some money off of it, I
and
guess.
since you brought that up, let's talk about that because what you just described, like even like when you're talking about working with the artist relations and getting gear and doing that thing, that was before you even were doing YouTube, right? Like that was
Yeah.
well before. So at what point do you decide like, hey, I've got all this cool gear, I'm doing all this work? I mean, you come from the video realm anyway, which you talked about, which I think probably a lot of people don't know, which is why your videos all look so amazing. So like the skill set just goes perfectly. You love gear, you've got this video skill set. When did that light bulb go off where you're like, huh, I could do this on YouTube?
Um, I've always messed around with video stuff. I did like some PA, camera truck jobs and whatnot, and like camera assist here in Hollywood. And it was always fun and really cool, and I've always been into it. But it's like I'm no actor. I can't act. I don't have any actor friends. I ain't trying to write a movie. Um, and at the time, I was already working for Novation, and I was like, hey, we need to step up our YouTube game. Like this is a huge untouched field, and I want to say this was maybe in 2016 because I've been there for a while. I got hired there at 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so with that being said, it was kind of like, oh, well, there's a lot of like workarounds to go because we're based in London and I was working
Right.
for the LA office. So there was a lot of like disconnect, and I was like, you know what? I'll just do it on my own on my own channel. So that's why a bunch of my first videos, don't watch them, they're embarrassing,
Go
are
sort
all,
by oldest
yeah,
and then start
newest,
watching.
sort by corniest, and they'll be all at the top.
Yeah, there you go.
And yeah, so I started doing those, and eventually they're like, "Oh, you actually know what you're doing. Like you can do videos. Cool." So then I started doing Novation videos, but I didn't want to keep doing, I wanted the separation of church and state
For sure.
for my channel and work. Because at the same time, if all I do after work is videos for work, what am I going to do when I clock in?
Totally.
So it's like, so once that kind of passion project got taken away from me and turned into a job, that's when I was like, man, well, I have all this other gear and I love filming and I just want to make this stuff look cool. Like it's fun to film and it's fun to make things look the way that they look. I'll just keep doing it. But I was also very worried and scared of not succeeding, I guess, or no, I didn't say that. I was afraid of not being able to be myself when making videos and have to live up to something that I wasn't. In the same way that
Because of working for Novation, or just because you're in your own head?
just me in my own head, because I saw the people who were successful on YouTube, like Casey Neistat or MKBHD or PewDiePie, or even down to like Andrew Huang and
Yeah.
Cuckoo. Like they're so unique.
Yeah.
Everyone's so awesome in their own way. And then there's me. And it's just like, well, I'm just this normal, monotone person.
But you
Like,
know what that turned into? You're the chill guy on YouTube now. You're like the chill
exactly.
sampling guy. So it's like the thing that made you unique. You originally started
Yeah,
thinking of as a weakness, almost.
exactly. And that's exactly it. And that's when I realized that whether it comes down to music or photography or videos or content creation, that doesn't matter who you are, literally your audience is waiting for you.
Yeah.
Like they are there. There's people that will totally vibe with who you are and what you want to talk about. Like for sure, no matter what. And it doesn't even matter what subscriber counts or anything like that. It's just about building that true connection to that like core audience, I would say.
Yeah, and let's talk about subscriber counts. I mean, not specifically numbers, but you talk about finding that audience, and your audience has over the past year like grown pretty significantly. Uh, is there what do you think attributed to that? What advice do you have out there for folks? It seems like consistency. I mean, your quality was pretty much always there. Was it consistency? Was it finding the right stuff to cover? Like what do you think led to that?
Yeah, it's a weird game, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like YouTube is a trip because not only is YouTube itself still pretty much in its infancy, it's been around like 12 years, 13 years. Like it's
Right.
still really new in terms of the cosmic scale for sure, but in terms of just like tech, it's definitely new, and that's always evolving in terms of what videos they push and whatnot. But again, kind of going back as like, you know what? I only want to do things that I really like. And that's like, what is my perfect day? Well, it's talking about things that I like. It's not even talking about things I like. It's just doing things I like.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can find an audience that also enjoys the things that I like, then I'm golden. So I think it was a matter of a bit of consistency. I've definitely seen channels that will release a video like once every 2 months, but they're like so well produced and
Yeah.
perfect and awesome, and they still grow like crazy. Um, and so I think it's a bit of consistency, but not really quality, but not really. I think the most important thing is just being authentic, meaningful, and genuine with your content and your message and who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Because like that's the cool thing with the channel. Like my comment section is surprisingly insanely positive and chill and dope, and I'm like, dude, everyone is so cool. Like
Yeah.
the world is such a happy place, when really there's so much chaos going on and going everywhere. But being able to find like a small little happy bubble, I guess, is really cool. And when you put that energy out there and you you kind of seek it, it definitely finds its way to you. So I definitely think a lot of people are kind of like looking for that.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of luck, consistency.
Your channel is definitely a bit of zen and a bit of chill vibes. And it is so nice that like we can have this chat. I mean, we are in the same state, but like we can chat with anybody anywhere in the world. We're broadcasting live. We have this nice community with us chatting, like people from all over the world. It's just like a
Yeah.
different thing, like when you're able to just like chat and be real with folks, in especially in the digital age. One thing you have mentioned to me before was talking about you have the channel and you have the full-time job, and I think that this is cool for people to hear because a lot of times people only see, they see the content and they see what you do on YouTube, but they don't really understand, like, okay, you work probably 40 plus hours a week at your normal job, and people, I think, struggle with balancing time and stuff. But one way you described it to me before was like you felt totally pressureless for your channel to really have the freedom to do exactly what you want to do and not feel like pressured into covering certain things because of SEO or whatever. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic of like how you balance your time between full-time job and being like a content creator, and also like the dynamic of it? Like, do you feel a certain security having the full-time job but also making content?
Yeah, I definitely would say that is for sure. Like, I don't, because I don't care about how the channel ultimately does, because I have a full-time job. Like, I don't need it to pay my bills. I don't need it to eat and survive. And there's a lot of things people are like, oh, well, how can I support and this and the next and blah, blah, blah. Like, can I just send you money? I'm like, dude, just send it to a cause you care about, or give it to your grandma. I don't know. Like I'm okay. Like I don't need it at all, and that's not the goal, because I have the full-time job, and I also would attribute that to the success of the channel, which is that I can just do whatever the hell I want, because it's like I'm not being like, okay, what can I do that has like a number, and I can, put my face with big eyes on the thumbnail, yeah, and
Yeah.
like be like, oh my God, this one synth is the one that doctors don't want you to know about. I don't have to worry about that stuff. So it's
Yeah.
just like, cool. I can just talk about gear that's not even for sale anymore, and not have to bat an eye that I'm not going to be able to have affiliate links, or I'm not going to have any kind of this and the next. Like that stuff is nice. It's all supplemental income, and that's cool. But yeah, because I have the day job, it's totally fine. And then when it comes to balancing time, schedule the crap out of your life. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like, not too much, because I hate being busy. Like, I hate
Right.
having, like, how you been? Oh, I'm busy, bro. Blah blah blah. It's like, dude, pump the brakes, just chill, enjoy life. Because if your
Right.
life is constantly a schedule, you're always doing something for the next thing you have to do. You're never really there enjoying life. And one change that I'd made probably in the past couple of months is actually scheduling when I film and when I edit. And that surprisingly had the craziest effect on me, because before I'd be like, all right, let's just do one video a week, and shoot it on whatever, shoot it whenever, as long as it's out by Saturday at noon, you're good to go. It doesn't matter. Just relax, dude. But I didn't realize throughout the entire week, I would constantly be thinking about this thing I had to do,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know? But by being like, you know what, I'm going to film every Wednesday and I'm going to edit every Thursday. My Mondays and Tuesdays now are like the greatest
You're
days of
chilling
my life.
because you don't have to worry about
Don't
it. It's
worry
happening
about
on
anything
Wednesday.
at
Yeah.
work. And I'm just like, cool. I literally have nothing to do.
Yes.
And the best part about that is like, what do I want to do? Oh, I want to be creative. I want to make some music. I want to go skate. I want to do anything.
Yeah.
It's like you're literally just there with yourself, and it's just nice. So I would definitely say scheduling helps, but don't go too crazy, because I've done it down to like 15-minute periods, and I was just like,
Oof. Too
I
much.
just felt like just
Yeah.
running all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because it's like, if you don't schedule that time to like shoot on Wednesday, edit on Thursday, when you want to take some time to yourself on that Monday or Tuesday, you're just constantly feeling guilty because you know you have a video to shoot. But with that schedule, like you just look at it and you go like, hey, no, I got time to do this on Wednesday. And I think that is a huge thing. And I was talking about that on a Mentor Monday stream. It's like, it's not just about making your task list for the week. It's about like placing that task list on specific days, because certain things don't have to be done right away. Certain things do. If you stack it up, it doesn't feel like a whole long list. It feels like super manageable. But that's so cool to hear you say that you started doing that. Would you say that there's been have you stayed with a once per week schedule? Have you ever broken from that?
No, I have not, and I have no idea how I've been able to do that, because I've like officially put out more videos than I have music at this point.
Wow.
Which
I
is
think about that a lot. Do you struggle with that at all? Because I struggle with it a little bit. It's like, man, I'm putting out videos every week, but I'm trying to get a track up like once a month. Like, and that's a struggle. Like, do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely do. I would say like even recently I was kind of just sitting down thinking about everything and was like, am I no longer a musician? Like, am I just a content creator now?
That I
Do
want to
I,
talk about that. I have that struggle.
it's like, yeah, it's a scary thought because I love making music, but then when majority of your time, when you kind of divide it all up, and you're like, I spend so much time making videos about making music, and I'm no longer making as much music, you almost kind of get this weird balance where you're like, am I a fraud? Like, am I just talking about, oh yeah, I put out music and I chop up samples like this, when on my day to day, I'm totally not. I'm just doing that for the video, because it's like, well, technically I haven't made a song in like 2 weeks. Oh my God, like now I'm talking about how to make music when I don't even make music. I mean, I tend to kind of overthink things, but yeah, it's definitely this weird balance. And I think it's the same reason, because music to me is so careless and I just want to just have fun. I don't have a deadline, or I don't set a schedule for myself to make
Yeah,
music. It just comes as it comes. But if I'm not here and I'm on the couch and it comes, I'm staying on the couch.
yeah,
It's like very rare that I'm in front of my machines and then the inspiration strikes. That's when it's key.
for sure.
But
And there's also, it's just like this new age of, I just think it's such a viable career pathway for people who want to be musicians, because we all know that, okay, we can release music as much as we want, but the 0.000017 cents per stream isn't paying the bills. If I can
yeah,
maybe talk about like what I do and maybe provide some value to some people, YouTube ad revenue, affiliate links, that becomes a much more viable revenue source. But it is like this, also, I think this drive that you must have, I know that I have it, is to actually share. And it's almost like carry on the tradition of music and share with people like your process. Do you ever feel like a pressure to be an expert or anything? Or do you feel just more comfortable framing it and it's like, this is how I do things. I got this and this is just the way I do it. Maybe you'll also enjoy doing it this way.
yeah, I definitely did at one point. Like, I felt the pressure of having to, you're like, oh man, like when channel's growing, there's all these new people watching. Like, what do they want to see?
Hmm.
And that's when you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, what was the original intent of this channel to begin with? It was just an outlet for you to show things the way you do them. You don't have to change the way you do things. And I think I remember listening to, crap, I can't remember what podcast it was, but it was kind of about content creation. Oh, it was this his name's Caleb Pike. He has a DSLR video shooter channel. And like one thing he talked about that he would like tell himself if he can go back in time about it is like, you don't owe anybody anything. And I was like, holy crap. Like, even just hearing that, I was just like, he's exactly right. Like, I literally don't owe anybody anything. Like, I can just turn off my channel tomorrow and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally fine. So even that, it's like with my compact creations, people are like, bring them back. I do, and I still am doing them, but I don't have to
When
do
it feels
them.
right for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to force it, because then it's like forced content. It's like putting myself somewhere that I I don't want to be. And is that good or bad? Am I by taking myself out of that situation, am I being selfish in being like, no, I don't want to do it? Or am I being selfless in being like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to provide the content to you that you probably are expecting, nor is it the content that I would approve of providing.
Yeah.
Or is it self-care where it's just like, I need to take a break. I want to kind of not do this right now. I hope you understand. So there's like this fine line of all of these things when it comes to that, and like being pressured of keeping up consistency. Like you just have fun, enjoy it, and realize that you are not your channel, you are not your music, you are just yourself, literally just you. Like don't let these other outside pressures form you or form your sense of reality that you then tell yourself you have to live in,
Right.
because it's all liquid.
I gotta ask, because I touched on it a little bit, like you're like the chill dude on YouTube, like music YouTube, like where, and everything you just said is like so like zen, like, and like where does this come where does this mentality, this, the just kind of your approach, because you just laid out a very soothing, very relaxed outlook on what you do. And I think the contrast to that is everybody who's trying to start a YouTube channel to quit their job so they can do YouTube for their job. And everything you just said flies in the face of that, despite having a very successful channel and community and career and etc. Where does this like this focus on your inner self and mental health and all that, where does that come from? Like, is it how you're raised? Is it just always been your outlook? I'm super curious. Like, where does the chill come from?
Yeah, I guess it might be. I mean, NorCal, bro. But
Mm-hmm.
especially being out here in LA, everyone thinks I'm the hippie, which I'm totally down with, and I
Yeah.
totally don't at all. Yeah, I definitely say it's just a sense of growing up and like the people I was around, and it's like, I don't know. I always say like, I don't care about anything. Nothing matters. And it sounds like so sad and depressing, but at the same time, it's like, well, everything's then fine if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything's chill, everything's easy. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like being able to really enjoy things for what they are is so nice. And you realize that your amount of energy has so much more mileage when you're not wanting like to get things, I guess. Like
Yeah.
just enjoy what you have as opposed to trying to constantly get stuff, because again, you're kind of focused in on whatever isn't currently here. You're focusing in on like an illusion of what might happen or what you're hoping to happen. And I think that was kind of like a big point of the channel too, which was like, I don't really want to tell people to go out and buy stuff. I just want people to be like, this, if this is what you have, like it's totally usable. Like just pay attention, learn, be patient, and like it'll happen. Like this stuff is cool. And yeah, I guess to answer your question, yeah, just I don't know when this happened.
That's funny.
Not really. Yeah,
I just
it's
had to
just
ask it because I aspire to the level of chill that you have. Our friend Taylor is in the chat. Yo, what is up? What's up, my
what's
friend?
good, Taylor.
Um,
Thank you, everybody, in the chat, actually, for tuning in.
Yeah, and I
This is
want to
super dope.
say real quick before I want to ask you about one more thing, but before I do that, chat, if you have questions for Enrique, throw them in the chat now, because after we have this next little short combo, I will take questions from the chat. We haven't talked much about gear or anything. I always think it's like, if you want to hear about the gear, you can go to the channel, but I guess if you guys have specific questions for Enrique, please put them in the chat now. I will do my best to read them as chat is formulating those questions. And feel free to squash this topic, because I forgot to ask you if we could talk about it before the stream. But you have some movie credits. I can't not
Yeah.
bring this up. But like I said, feel free to squash it. But I recently saw your name in some movie credits. Do you want to talk about that? Not recently, but like
Uh, yeah,
semi-recently.
we could. I mean, if you want.
Tell us. I'm sitting in a movie theater. Credits roll. And what movie am I seeing, Enrique?
It's Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars.
Yeah, a little indie flick called Star Wars Episode 9: Rise of Skywalker. and your name comes up in the credits. Music credit. You have music playing in Star Wars, and it's the Cantina music in Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. And you don't talk about this ever. And it frustrates me.
I mean, you saw my name in the credits. That's
Yeah.
there it is.
How, like, whatever version of this story you want to tell, how the heck did this even happen?
So JJ, insanely amazing.
For all of us who aren't on first, I guess you wouldn't say first name, like first two initial basis with JJ. Well, we're talking JJ Abrams here, famous director for everybody at home listening. But go ahead, continue. JJ, you and JJ.
Yeah, so he's a fan of the channel. I'm a massive fan of his as well, and he bought a hat. And I was like, oh, cool. I remember like getting the notification on my phone, like hat purchased from JJ Abrams. And I was just like, funny name, dude,
Yeah, like you thought it was a joke.
whatever. Yeah, totally. And then I like was packing up the hat to ship it out. And I realized I was like, oh crap, this is like going to Bad Robot. And I was like, this is probably JJ. So like I wrote him a little letter, spelled my email wrong. Classic.
Yeah.
He found my email, hit me back up, and then we just kind of started talking about gear because he is just as crazy about gear as I am.
Right, he's a huge like synth guy, right?
Yeah, crazy synth guy. Has a bunch of dope stuff. And yeah, we just kind of like were chatting back and forth, just the moons aligned. It was like, hey, I'm working on a track for a bar scene. Do you want to come help?
A
And I was
bar
like,
scene. Yeah.
yes, sir. Yeah, I'll be right there as fast as I can. So yeah, and then I guess the rest was history. It was freaking crazy. It's still weird. I don't know. It's a crazy, lucky, awesome thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's a once in a lifetime moment. That's amazing. I just had to get that story out of you because I think more people need to know it, and it's so cool.
No.
Thank you for telling it. I'm sorry I didn't ask you if I could ask about it before. Chat has actually two people asked. They're curious to know what you do on a day-to-day basis with Novation. I think it's probably cool to know just generally, like, what does somebody do who works at Novation? I mean, you have a very specific job, but sure. What is the day-to-day job like working for a company like Novation?
So for my position, which is a crazy name, the technology evangelist,
Amazing.
I feel like I need a cross, like a Novation Bible.
Yeah.
Long story short is the overarching goal is to want people to use Novation products or believe in Novation products. But I'm more of like the synth guy because I do a lot more of the artist relation stuff. I did a lot of the public facing events. Like I would do practically all of them.
We'll see you on Guitar Center's YouTube channel and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Like Guitar Center, Sweetwater, Zounds, all the mom and pop boutique stores that are super awesome, like Control Voltage, Perfect Circuit, Sin City, Nerd Audio, Detroit Modular. There's tons of them. Patchworks in Seattle is also really cool. So I handle a lot of the mom and pop boutique stores, do a lot of content, public facing events, artist relations. And I originally got hired as a part of the rebranding for Novation, which was really fun. And I'm happy to see where it's at now. And it's always kind of tough, like talking about stuff on my channel. Because like on my channel, I'll only do videos on stuff I actually use and genuinely like,
Right.
So like, it's so weird sometimes when I'm like talking about circuit on my channel.
You want to
I'm
put
like,
a disclaimer, like...
Yeah, I always do, but I still am like, dude, there's no amount of disclaiming that I can do.
You'll always have your bias. Everybody has their bias.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that's the case because it's like I genuinely really like Circuit a lot.
Right.
And then I get a little animated about things I like too. And then I'm like, man, am I overselling this? Like to myself, I feel like I am when in reality, I just genuinely like it. And same with like Peak or like the Launch Key Mini. It's like, cool. Like the Launch Key Mini, I really like too because it's small, it's here. I didn't have to buy it.
Yeah.
It showed up because it worked there, and it's like, oh, this thing's actually pretty tight, so I'll use it. Yeah. So, yeah, the day-to-day innovation is it could be a little everywhere, but it's almost like any other job. Like there's even people that work innovation who haven't done anything in the music industry or like care to, because there's so many different types of jobs to make a company move. There's room for everybody. But if you are interested in music, that's when it's really cool because there's always room to grow.
And a lot of companies seem to have like some type of evangelist role. Like some people use that term specifically, like just the folks who like learn the brand's technology and go out and showcase it and do all that stuff. So folks out there who are thinking about
Yeah.
careers in music, sounds like a fun job. Sounds like you
Yeah,
also wear a
totally.
lot of hats.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's like there's like field trainers, product specialists, brand ambassadors, technology evangelists. They're all technically the same thing. I was a field trainer, product specialist, was gonna kind of be the brand ambassador, but then I got taken for the tech evangelist. But they were like literally the same role for all of them. It
Yeah.
was just kind of a little bit more defined. But yeah, working in the industry is super cool. And then what's crazy too, I mean, I've been so fortunate that Novation is just a super dope company, that I've just been able to stay there. But I've seen people be like, get hired at Roland. Now they're at Yamaha. Now they're at Behringer. Now they went to Akai. Now they're at Electron. It's
Mm-hmm.
like once you're
Bouncing.
in it, you're pretty much good to go. Yeah. But
Cool.
it's a matter of, I guess, like, I don't even know if it's showing your worth because that can also be annoying to some people when it's like, check me out, check me out, check me out,
Yeah, for sure.
call me,
Yeah,
call me.
I think it's cool for the people who are like when you were talking about having that mind blowing moment, go to school for music, get a job doing this, do this, like for
Yeah.
other people to maybe have that moment as well. Another question from Patzer asking about, um, this is an age old question, but maybe we can get a little more specific on it. What's the charm of vintage outboard gear versus all software? How does it support your creative process? I guess I don't want to do the whole like hardware versus software debate, but
Yeah.
you are very big into hardware, and maybe you can just give like a little pitch on what you love about using hardware specifically, because I know you talked about starting off with lots of software, but I think
Yeah.
is it fair to say that you're now using mostly hardware when you're creating music? Maybe you're using a DAW to
Oh,
mix stuff and record stuff, but you're using mostly hardware to
for
make.
sure.
Yeah. So what
It's
is it? What does the
definitely
love come from?
it's definitely like a hybrid setup, which I really like. And I
Mm-hmm.
would say hardware uh supplements my software world by hindering it, by slowing me down and actually setting me there. The same way that I love my Rubik's Cube, which I still haven't figured out. I refuse to look anything else online. I've had it for like 2 months now.
Well,
But being able to like just sit there and slow down for a second is what I love uh, about hardware. Like even with the 3000, I just got my 60 back today, and I'm so excited to use that because that's even slower than the
huh.
3000. It's like even more of a pain in the ass to use than this thing. And I think in just being able to like sit, chill, enjoy the moment, and like really pick things out, it helps me be a bit more specific with what I want to actually do. And this was another thing I noticed too when I was super lucky that DiBiase, he does a lot of stuff with the SP404, like insane genius, absolutely
Yeah.
incredible person. He taught me a lot about the SP404, and I remember taking it home and like making music on it and being like, this is the sound I've been looking for. And because software, when making music in software, I would always start with a completely blank canvas.
Mm-hmm.
You're left to everything, and like
Everything.
it's so
Endless.
hard to
Yeah.
shape a sound around endless possibilities. It's like imagine you're a painter, but every time you start in the art store, it's like, okay, am I doing oil, acrylic, pen,
It's not
crayon,
even just the
or am I
colors, it's the whole medium
yeah,
and
it's literally
format.
everything
Yeah.
is complete. Like Ableton is as gray as its color, and you have to shape it into what you want. And when I realized, like, oh, I love using an MPC, I love using X, Y, and Z. This creates my sound that I really like. So hardware, even though it slows me down a lot and it allows me to really just enjoy the process of making music, it also puts these almost guidelines on me or these little like training wheels to kind of keep me in that sound because I have no choice. Like that's just the way it's going to sound because that's all this thing can do. When I put out my like my Breadcrumbs EP as well as some of the other EPs on my Rhythm District record label, they were all MPC 4000, completely unmixed because I don't have an EQ on there. It's just volume and like filter, and that was it. And I was like, sounds cool. Like I like the way it sounds.
Nice.
Whatever, you know. And I was like, if that was in Ableton, it would be a completely different EP.
For sure. And maybe would have taken longer to come out because you would have spent hours
Oh,
more agonizing. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
You mentioned the SP404 and the MPC, and our friend Taylor. I want to shout out Taylor for a moment because he made a great edit of that people can go onto Enrique's Instagram and find of you checking your levels or not checking your levels and
Yeah.
pushing play on your gear and going, whoa, my ears,
Yeah.
and across multiple videos. I died. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, his Instagram is Antipodal,
Antipodal.
Antipodal.
Yeah.
AL. Yeah, and he just had a new release actually out on Spotify. It's super good too.
Check it out. You can find his name right here in the chat. It's right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Taylor, link it. It's super dope.
yeah,
People need to hear
throw
it.
it in the chat. Taylor asks, have you jammed on the MPC one? First question.
No, I have not yet.
Have not. And then, you ever load full tracks into the SP404 or just chops? So full tracks or chops?
It starts off with chops,
Mm-hmm.
and then as I'm progressing the song, I eventually finish the song on the SP as well. So then it's just one whole song chilling on a pad.
Cool.
So then sometimes I'll copy that and paste it over into like Bank I, and I is usually kind of where I have like all my full tracks. But then that also eats up your SD card, you know, and then
Right.
it's like the balance of, all right, do I use a 32 gig card and wait 10 minutes for my SP to turn on, or do I use a 4 gig card, wait 5 seconds, and have no space? So it's kind of a bit of both. I've definitely noticed a lot more in the beat scene. A lot of people just kind of the same way where they'll make a song on the SP, they can just keep the whole song there. So when they go to play live, they're just kind of going from full track to full track doing effects. So that's pretty cool. I also saw from Roundhouse in North Carolina. Oh man, I can't remember his name right now. Oh, he did a live set at Moogfest with two SP404s and like a DJ mixer, and it was the tightest thing I've ever seen. And it was exactly that, just kind of bouncing back and forth. His name's fuck.
It's a family show. Family show, Enrique.
Yeah. Oh.
No, I don't care. It's fine.
The fudge. Um, Man, I can never remember his artist name. Oh well, if I remember it, it'll probably come to me.
Yeah, you could throw
But
it
Round,
in a comment and I'll pin it if you can remember after the show.
yeah, it's Round Haus from North Carolina. Is like their little collective. It's
Mm-hmm.
super dope. Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of like live shows and stuff, Joey Fernandez asks, do you have any live shows? I'd like to see you play somewhere today. I mean, I'm sure COVID has affected this, but you were doing a bit of vlogging and like showing some live performance stuff. Was that something you were getting more into, or had you been doing live shows for a while?
Around the end of the last year, I was playing probably like 2 shows a month, like one live, one DJ, because like, you know, I really love playing records,
Mm-hmm.
and I would play a lot of the like underground warehouse parties here in LA. But I was also doing live sets, so the same way that I kind of just want to do whatever I want to do on my channel, during those moments, I was like, man, people really like these DAWless things. This is perfect because I'm doing a lot of DAWless shows right now. So it goes hand in hand, and I can just do videos on what I'm actually doing right now. So it
Totally.
like kills, you know, feeds, I should say, two birds with one stone. And birds don't eat stones. Feed two birds with one cracker. And
One scone, one scone.
yeah, one scone. There you go. Yeah, one croissant. And the so it kind of was like easy way for me to make videos on what I was currently doing. And now, since we're in the queue, I've just kind of been jamming here on the desk. So I've just kind of been making videos about jamming and hybrid studios because they're the best, and you get the best of both worlds. You get the limitations you need, and you also get the endless possibility, flexibility of the DAW side of things. And as far as shows that I'm going to be playing lately, not really. I get hit up by a couple of people to do shows once in a while, but I don't know. In terms of what I want to do I really want to do it? It's like, well, there's all this time and effort and this and that, and then the pay is X amount. And I'm like, okay, after all the hours I put into this, I'm
Right.
going to be getting like $5 an hour. Would I work a job for $5 an hour? Probably not.
Yeah.
So I'll pass. I'd rather just kick it on the beach or something. Yeah.
Totally. It goes back to your thing about doing what you want to do in every moment, just being super deliberate
Yeah.
about you and your time. We're coming to an end here. We've chatted for quite some time. Before we completely close out, I want to remind people that if you're interested in taking classes in music production, mixing and mastering, what am I missing? Ableton, beginner, intermediate, advanced, Logic, same thing, songwriting and composition, all that good stuff, online in New York or in Berlin, you can totally do that. Go to 343labs.com, but don't go there, and I'm not telling you to go sign up for a course today because there's a totally free open house happening this Sunday, August 30th at 1 p.m. EST. There will be an open house where you can come meet some of the instructors, learn all about the classes, and we even have classes for kids. So if you're a parent out there or if you're a young person watching and you want to take a class with other teens during the school year, open house at 2 p.m. EST for you young folk out there on Sunday, August 30th. So go to 343labs.com, go to events. You can set a reminder or RSVP to the open house and just come find out about the courses. 12-week courses, super in-depth, super amazing instructors, like experts, like former touring like musicians, beatport charting producers, Ableton certified trainers, all that good stuff. Check it out, 343labs.com. But
And also check out Oak City Slums on Instagram.
Oak
That's his
City
name.
Slums. Check it out.
One word. Yeah.
Two
Really
SP404s
dope.
and a DJ mixer.
Insane. Insanity. And a bunch of stuff with Circuit too. Super dope.
That's awesome. I'm going to check that out. Enrique, thank you so much for taking the time and talking to me today.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everybody in the chat, for kicking it this long.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
chat was super chill. I hope you all enjoyed this chat. More guests in coming weeks. This is next week. 343 TV is taking a break, so there will not be daily live streams for 343 TV next week. So just keep that in mind. But we'll be back with an all new 343 TV. Not next week, the week after. So stay tuned for that. More interviews on Thursdays, shows every single day on different music production topics. But anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Enrique, for being here. This has been TAETRO for TAETRO Talks. Have a good one.